Dozens of people have been injured after a gas pipeline exploded in Malaysia.
On the 1st of April, second day of Hari Raya of year 2025, Putra Heights was torn apart in an instant when a massive fireball erupted from a gas pipeline. This caused devastating destruction. The event left behind a trail of chaos and pain for many of the residents there. The problem is not just the fireball. It's not just about all this smoke and debris. It exposed a deeper flaw in Malaysia on how it's managing its urban development. This explosion reveals not just the failure of one pipeline, but the failure of a system that prioritizes speed and profit over safety and regulation. In this video, we'll dive deep into the heart of the incident itself, explore the legal and financial consequence, and show how this disaster reflects a wider issue in Malaysia's approach to urban development. By the end, we'll understand why Malaysia's rapid urbanization, while economically driven, is also putting the public at risk and what needs to change moving forward. But before we explain what happened on that day, let's explain what a gas pipeline is and what's it for. Now, a gas pipeline is a huge pipe that transports natural gas from underground wells to homes, business, and power plants. For some of us, it is how we get fuel for cooking, heating, and generating electricity. This pipeline stretches across thousands of kilometers, sometimes even underwater, to make sure the gas can reach those homes or commercial units quickly and efficiently. Without them, they won't be able to operate. Now, I understand for many of us who are at home today, we order gas tong, right? So we don't use gas pipeline. But if you go to some of the more traditional home or even apartments, you will find that they do have a gas pipe supplying natural gas to their house directly. The Putra Heights explosion was caused by a gas leak from a Petronas pipeline running through the area, leaving a massive crater of 32 feet deep and around 70 times 80 feet wide. The fire spread quickly, with the Selangor Fire and Rescue Department confirming the blaze by 8:23 am. By 11:06 am, the government has set up a temporary relief center at the Putra Heights Mosque for affected residents. And at 11:20 am, the Naga Nasional Berhad reported power disruptions. By 3:45, the fire was fully extinguished, but the damage was extensive. 138 people were injured, with 237 homes affected and 365 vehicles were burned. As I was reading some of the reports where the residents recounted their experience, some say that early in the morning they heard a loud explosion, sounded like some big fire jet beside their house, and heat started turning up. And it was too hot for them to even exit from the front door, they had to exit from the back door, and they can see their properties, their vehicles start melting away. Just the heat alone from the explosion was 1000 degrees Celsius. I can imagine, just by being one street away, you are still talking about boiling points. And residents who tried to run away, their feet got burned because the floor was just too hot. I can imagine how scary was that incident for them. Anyway, swiftly after that, Anwar Ibrahim, our Malaysia Prime Minister, confirmed that both the federal and state government, alongside with Petronas, would bear the cost of repairing the homes and replacing those vehicles. But despite the compensation, the long-term consequences are going to be more severe. At this point, many questions remain unanswered about who is responsible for this tragic incident. Petronas, our leading energy company, confirmed the pipeline in question was part of its main gas transmission network. But what led to the leak? Was it poor maintenance, external contractor error, or a combination of both? Now, report indicated that there was a construction work happening nearby at the time, and the contractor had been working on a private sewer line approved by Indah Water Consortium. Some were quick to blame on this project, but soon after, the project claimed that they have already received the necessary permit, including approval from Petronas to use the right of way for construction. Now, despite this, the development was delayed in obtaining the certificate of completion and compliance. And questions start arising on whether the location of the pipeline was properly accounted for during planning. At this point, all the different experts disagree on the exact cause, and our former Bomba Director, General Dato Sri Muhammad Hamdan Wahid, suggested that BLEV could be a potential cause. Some experts also speculated that it is soil moisture and the chemical composition near the pipeline may have led to the corrosion and weakening of the pipeline structure until it ruptured. However, without further investigation, we cannot conclusively say what caused this explosion. Even at this point when we're recording this video, the full official report is not yet published. So we are also looking forward to that. Anyway, as investigation goes on, what's gonna happen is this. If a party is found to be at fault, the financial and legal repercussion will be on them. And it's gonna be substantial. Based on my rough calculation, just the taman near there itself, each one of those houses actually costs about R1 million. 100 over of them, that's a lot of money. Anyway, lawsuits could follow after this, with affected residents and businesses demanding compensation. Because it's not just about the damaged property, it's also about the disruption of their daily operation, for example, businesses and so on, and trauma and mental health costs, all these kind of things is gonna follow. And the firm that's responsible, well, it will damage their reputation and result in huge financial costs. For now, we are left waiting for investigation to determine the exact cause and who exactly is responsible. But a more important question remains. What about the public safety of the current urban development of other housing areas? The explosion in Putra Heights reflects a deeper and systematic issue with Malaysia's urban development approach. Malaysia has been experiencing a rapid urbanization, and there's been a hallmark of Malaysia growth in our recent year, with an ever-expanding property market driving both local investment and foreign direct investment. But despite this boom, the lack of oversight in critical areas like safety and long-term planning has become increasingly apparent, such as incident involving Highlands Tower in Ulu Klang, Selangor, caused by a landslide in 1999, water from a nearby hill slope development project was not properly drained. Then some of these pipes burst and water went into the soil, causing disruption in soil movement, and the tower collapsed. Another clear example is Taman Sri Muda in Shalam, one of the worst hit areas during the 2021 flood. Originally, that area is meant to be a water catchment zone before being developed in 1989. Now it's a home to over 9,000, mostly M40 and B40 households. At first, it was marketed as the place where people can own their first homes and stuff like that. But after the flood, property prices dropped sharply and remained volatile. And every now and then during monsoon season, people are reminded of it, the price dropped even further. Since then, some of the allegations later emerged that the developer actually failed to comply with safety directive, including the requirement of a 2-meter embankment. This kind of highlights how poor planning and oversight can turn growing neighborhood into a high-risk zone. According to this article that I read, in Malaysia, over 80% of the construction projects suffer from low quality due to factors like poor project management, lack of experience, insufficient material, and time and budget constraint. And can you imagine, this will become particularly dangerous when those developments are happening close to critical infrastructure like gas pipeline or flood-prone areas. The point is, many times, Malaysian developers are more focused on meeting market demand for housing rather than ensuring safety of residents. There's more incentive for them to finish the house faster and get it sold off than the rest of the other things. So to fix this whole thing, I believe it takes a whole of government and private approach, where regulations and the way of us planning our urban cities has to change. And more importantly, execution has to change as well. I mean, we know Malaysia lah. Very often we plan very well, but execution and implementation, sometimes not the best lah, huh? So at the end of the day, if this is not well planned and well implemented, there could be further danger for other new developments. The people most affected by incidents like this are homeowners in the suburban area like Putra Heights. The middle class is often the ones that buys into this development. And imagine, as a middle class who needs to buy a home, whether to stay or to invest, it's a big decision. You're going to spend your lifetime saving on a home. And with that, there's very little room for financial error. One single unexpected disaster can wipe out our single biggest asset, just because of bad planning and safety oversight. Years of hard work can be gone in just instant, displacing the entire family. I just want to pluck out a quote of one of the victims. I have to look for another place to stay and restart from zero. While we think that the middle class are the only ones suffering, this really affects the entire Malaysian population, beyond the victims of the recent incident. Everyone needs to buy a home. whether is it buying to stay or buying to invest. Imagine now as a homeowner, you don't just have to worry about the normal things like financial and whether is this a good place to buy. Now you even need to be worried about potential hazard. How stressful can it be? To a certain extent, some may even argue that this will affect property values. For somewhere in like Putra Heights right now, it might or might not dramatically drop, but the confidence in investing in areas that are close to critical infrastructure, undoubtedly, it will be shaken. Probably every time when you're thinking about buying a house, you'll be wondering, is there a gas pipeline nearby? Or is there some sort of an embankment? And where are you to find this kind of information? It just makes home ownership harder. Moreover, for places that are in the high-risk area, this could lead to higher insurance premium, and this will deter future investment value and development. Now, at this point, what we know is this. Victims of this explosion in Putra Heights will likely be offered some sort of compensation by those who are involved, whether is it the government or Petronas or whoever that is responsible. But what if the terms aren't fair or not what they are looking for? Well, at this point, legal advice is crucial for victims to ensure they get what they deserve. So I actually spoke to a lawyer from Thomas & Phillips, and here's what he has to say. What is the most important step that these victims should take right now? Should they go through a lawyer or should they wait for official compensation offer from, say, Petronas, if let's say that they are the person responsible?
I think it's a bit difficult for them to then focus, okay, I want to go to a lawyer straight away. Usually in the next maybe couple of weeks, you have your MPs, the government and perhaps even Petronas coming on board to offer you certain compensation as a victim. With the offer of compensation from certain parties, there may be a requirement for you to sign like some sort of an NDA or waiver. Then perhaps that could be the first opportune time to maybe consult a lawyer. If the victims are thinking about taking legal action, ideally consult a lawyer. And say that, okay, I'm thinking about formulating a claim. I'm thinking about maybe even a class action, because the whole resident, the whole taman can consider, okay, we need to protect our rights here. We have suffered greatly from someone's fault. Of course, the relevant lawyer would then explain what are the things needed. But usually in these kind of cases, being able to prove whatever you have lost would become secondary, because most important is to establish the fact that who is responsible. And do we have enough potential plaintiffs that is willing to come forward?
If let's say the victims, after a few weeks, they receive a settlement offer, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is that they are not very happy with the terms there. That will be the time where they should go to a lawyer and seek legal counsel, right?
That would be ideal. If they have some sort of offer and they're happy with the offer, then all well and good. But if let's say the offer has like I said, some requirement for you to say I'm now waiving my rights to claim compensation in court, or this is a final settlement, I cannot do anything else after this, then that's when ideally they should consult a lawyer first to see whether this is something that they should accept. And because if they sign willy-nilly, they might lose out on something which is more crucial to restore them back to the position which they ought to have been without this incident.
My last question is this, right? When it comes to legal case, we understand that time is of crucial essence there.
Yes.
So do they have a time limit on when they can file this claim or take a legal action or speak against the settlement given?
Okay, so if they are filing a claim premised on negligence on whichever responsible party, then they have a timeline of 6 years. 6 years from the date the incident or when they suffered damage. But let's say if potentially one of the defenders or the defendant they're looking after is or going after is a local council or a public authority, then that timeline is shortened by 3 years. So that's the law in Malaysia.
Anyone want to reach out to you regarding similar kind of things where they are involved in some sort of cases where it affected them but it's not due to their fault, how do they reach out to you?
So LinkedIn, Facebook, and even our website. So any Google searches on Elif Benjamin or Thomas Philip, that should pop up in the first few search results. One
thing we have to say is this: Malaysians are truly united whenever there is a disaster. We have seen it in COVID, we have also seen it in this time, where many people came together to provide assistance to the victims. And we also did a post on the list of assistance that they can get on our Instagram. Feel free to go and check it out. I think this disaster brought us to an essential point. We need to be aware of the development area before even purchasing. Now, the point of this video isn't about pointing out mistakes, but it's about learning from them. I truly do hope that our government will take this tragedy seriously and further improve to make stricter laws and policy on urban development. Not just particularly on the matter of gas pipeline. Some do say that you can't totally avoid a gas pipeline, but it's not about a pipeline. It's about the whole planning process and what we do to ensure the safety of our development. Whether we like it or not, in the near future, this incident will be a reminder that will serve as a caution for homeowners. And this could affect certain property prices. In my opinion, I think the Malaysian urban planning and development model really needs a serious reform. We can't just continue building rapidly without considering the risk that is involved. Developers need to prioritize safety, and government need to enforce stricter regulation to ensure that high-risk areas are protected from disasters. I've talked about it many times, whether is it in REOK or is it here, where we need to have proper approach to town planning and urban development. At the end of the day, Malaysia needs to stop looking at development as just for profit, but also for the safety of our citizen and the development of our citizen. I believe when it comes to this topic, many of us have something to say. So welcome to share with us your thoughts in the comments below.